Sarika, how are you?
Good, Lynette. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. Hey, listen, before we jump into the official podcast, I've started this new thing where I'm asking my guests four
Mm.
questions just around their entrepreneurial journey. So I'd like to ask those four questions first, and then we'll get into the full-blown interview if you don't mind.
Okay, sounds good. I hope I can
All right.
answer them.
All right, Sarika. So the first part is just share the best part of your entrepreneurial journey.
The best part. I think it's for sure the fun and freedom and to really be okay to be myself because that was not the case with when I was in my previous career. I felt like I was always needing to not pretend but a kind of fit an expectation. So now I feel like I can totally be myself and it's okay. And yeah, so that's the best part.
The fun and freedom. That is, I love that. Fun and
Mhm.
freedom. It actually just gave me chills when you said that because it's just so relatable, you know? So yeah,
Yeah.
it's fun. Like, listen, we're laughing, we're having so much fun. We're not, sort of confounded by boundaries of corporate life. So amazing. The second question, what advice do you have for hesitant women in midlife considering entrepreneurship?
Well, I think if you're already thinking about it, that means that it means that you should do it, right? If you're even thinking about it, I think you're meant to do it. So I think, yeah, just go for it. I don't think Yeah, if you're hesitant, that's even more the reason because that means that you know somewhere that it's possible, but you're hesitating. So that means, yeah, you're meant to do it.
Okay, that's actually really good insight. So in your gut, you know that you could actually do it, but then
Yeah,
it's your sort of
probably something
fear.
logical in your brain that's suppressing it. So I think you're meant to do it. If that even, comes across like that thought is in your mind, you're meant to do it because I think we're so lucky now, right? I mean, if we think about, our grandmother times and this kind of thing. So yeah, absolutely.
That's really interesting, and I want to get it a little bit more deeper into that into the when we get into the podcast, just about the our thoughts of our grandmothers and even our mothers, and
Exactly.
being a woman as a woman entrepreneur is much different today. So, okay, the third question. What inspired you to start business later in life? So, what inspired you to start your business later in life? And I know you're rounding the corner to 50. So, it's only been maybe what, 4 years, 5 years that you really have sort of dabbled a little bit into your entrepreneur life. So,
Oh, 3 years, just
three years.
yeah, or even less actually, like officially.
Okay, so what inspired you to start your business later in life?
Well, actually, the easiest answer is that actually I did not even know the possibility of entrepreneurship when I was younger. So that's kind of one of the reasons, because that was not even, decades ago, that was not a normal choice, or at least in my kind of upbringing, that was not a choice. So I only discovered this later. So it wasn't like I I waited until this moment. It was just I loved my two passions, and it. I realized people were interested in learning about it. So it never crossed my mind to make a business out of these two passions. But I realized if they're asking for it, why not? Why? Maybe I can make this into a business. So it was more organic rather than me saying, okay, I'm going to start entrepreneurship because I'm going to be 50 soon. It was not like that. It was more kind of a organic,
Yeah.
yeah, way.
But I love that, you talked about it in the last question where you said, this is the perfect time. We are in a great time of our lives, whereas compared to our ancestors or our family, our previous, our moms and our grandmothers and stuff. And so when you think about that, you actually get to start dabbling a little bit more into your passions as you get older because your responsibilities have possibly lessened. You know, you
Oh,
maybe have kids
yeah.
that have, yeah, exactly, kids that have gone on to university, or
Mhm,
I don't know, maybe you've just had a divorce, or maybe you've retired from your job, whatever the case may be, whatever that
mhm,
event was, it gives
mhm.
you this opportunity to focus on passion. Don't even worry about the business aspect of it. If you're doing something that you love, people are going to start asking, right? How do you do it? Tell me more. And they're curious. And this is where the business sort of organically evolves. That's what you were sort of mentioning about the organic part of it. I love that. I love that. Um,
You're
so,
right.
Sarika, so the final and fourth question is, how has entrepreneurship later in life impacted your overall well-being?
That's a difficult question. Well, I think it's totally positive because like every day I wake up really excited to start my day. So, I mean, of course, entrepreneurship is not easy. It's been really hard the last three
Yeah,
years in a way, but it's also, yeah, it's in terms of well-being, I think I can't even think my life without entrepreneurship because right now it's such a joy, of course, apart from my family and friends.
yeah.
Yeah, and I do have to say I wasn't getting that kind of boost of joy towards the end of my career. So yeah, definitely it's a positive impact, and yeah.
I love that. I wasn't getting that boost of joy. Whoa. Totally, totally, totally relatable, I think. You know, 30-year career, and you're just like, oh my God, when is this thing going to be over? So, okay, that's great. Okay, so thank you, Sarika, for answering those four questions. Welcome to This is 50 Freedom Through Passions. As you know, this is a podcast for women over or close to 50 who are sharing their stories of entrepreneurship, the ups and downs, and then a little bit about their business as well. So I want to dive deep into it now. First, before we kind of get into your business and your two passions, as I know you have, give a little bit of your backstory. Tell the audience a little bit about Sarika. You and I during our pre-call talked a lot about the Japanese culture and sort of the way that our grandmothers and mothers see you or saw you. So give a little backstory of the job that you left, the being in this Japanese culture, and whatever else you want to share with us.
Okay, well, first of all, Lynette, thank you for having me. I've been
My
so
pleasure.
excited.
You
Yeah.
know, before you do that, I should just tell the audience, you and I have been in this little mastermind group that I posted. Posted this little ad that said, "Does anybody want to join an accountability group?" I'm going to call it the Early Birds. And you, I think the number two person to say, "Hell yeah, I'm in." No idea who you were. You were living, and you still do live in Europe. But we've been together now for just about 3 years, following each other's journey, along with
Yes.
other women in our group. And I can't even believe it that we've been together. We meet religiously every week. We sometimes take a summer break. Sometimes not everybody can show up, but we have a meeting every Tuesday. And it's just been
Wow.
such a interesting group, and it's been so wonderful to see. Pretty much, I think everybody has launched. Yeah, we all have. We have launched a
Absolutely.
program. We've supported each other through different ways of
Mm.
technologies. We have a little Telegram group that we talk to each other during the week. And Sarika, what are you using for this? And what are you like? What are you doing? How are you managing your email lists? And then other people ask, well, how are you doing your videos? How are you doing your podcast? And it's just such a relief to know that you have that community and that
Yeah.
support. So
Oh,
yeah.
absolutely. It's a treasure, and you started it, and you're the leader. So thank you, Lynette, on behalf of,
Yeah,
all of us, really. I mean,
yeah.
and it's not like we're forced to do this. We love it so much, so we always like voluntarily love we regroup, right? And it's
I
amazing that I
know.
can't believe it's 3 years.
Right? I know. I thought, oh my God, this group was never going to last, but I'm going to give it a try anyway. See, I figured, well, you know what? If we stuck together for 6 months, that would be perfect. Now we've had new people and people who have left, but yeah, it's anyway. So it's amazing. So, okay. So sorry to interrupt you. Your backstory.
Yeah, so yes, so my name is Sarika and I'm Japanese, but I've lived and worked in 14 countries around the world in 4 continents. And I'm actually a United Nations official turned entrepreneur, or maybe I should say multi passionate entrepreneur because
Yeah.
I just love so many things. But yes, so yeah, but it did not, I mean, it sounds very simple now, but it was not super easy to get to this point because, well, like you were saying, Lynette, um, as a Japanese woman, Japan is still, even now in this year 2023, we're like so low in the world gender equality index. So you can imagine 50 years ago when I was born, if it's like
Yeah,
this in 2023. So, yeah, so gender, actually, women's and, well, gender issues have always been my passion. And that's one of the key things I was doing within the United Nations as well. My last post was actually in women's empowerment and gender equality section.
I love it. I
And I
love it. I love it. And I've seen pictures of you where you're sitting at a UN table, and I'm like, oh God, that is not the Sarika I know. She's way more fun than that. You look
exactly.
so official. I was just like, oh wow, okay.
And yeah, exactly like you say, I felt like because I was so young at that time when I joined the UN, I took the you know, but during those time when I finished school decades ago, and the logical choice for me was that I wanted to change the world. And when I Googled, well, there was no Google at that time, but when I asked, how can I, bring positive change, especially on gender issues? Because again, I forgot to mention, but yeah, I mean, even as little as probably 5 years old, I remember like question marks in my head about comments um, um, about why I'm wearing a blue T-shirt, not a pink T-shirt. you know.
Oh, this was somebody was commenting on you, like it was a family member that was commenting, why is she wearing a blue t-shirt, not a
Yeah,
pink
not a
t-shirt?
pink T-shirt, and that's kind of probably my earliest. Oh, it was my grandfather, who, of course, I love dearly, and who I'm the first grandchild, so he loves me dearly, and there was no like harm intended. But that was just, just that just
The
shows
culture.
you the gender stereotyping, right? And even I'm not quite even sure how old I was, but I think it was around 5, and that's like my first time I had a question mark. Why can't I wear a blue T-shirt? I don't get
Yeah,
it. Yeah, so that was like my
yeah,
initial thoughts, and I didn't know there was so much more to gender equality, of course. But that was like my
right.
first not awakening, but
Yeah.
awareness. Yeah,
Aha moment. Yeah, exactly.
moment. Yeah, so I joined the UN with as a through the recruitment exam, and yeah, so I was specializing on gender and also urban development and poverty. But I felt like now at this point in my entrepreneurship, I feel like, well, you know what? I can still do what I want to do on gender and women's issues, even through my passions, which seems
Yeah.
like completely unrelated, but there's so much that we can do with what we love also, with the same different ways to achieve the same goal is possible through entrepreneurship. So
I
yeah.
love that. And so when you think about it, so your two passions are, I'll let you explain your two passions. So you've left the UN, you left the UN, what, 3 years ago?
Oh no, now it's already quite a long time ago because I had lots of special leave without pay and stuff
Okay, okay,
inside. Yeah.
okay. So your choice to leave the UN was for what purposes? You were just sort of,
So yeah, basically, when I joined the UN, I had absolutely no intention of resigning. For sure, I thought I would work until retirement age 62, and I thought, okay, maybe I'll be the Secretary
yeah,
General and change the
not
world.
bad.
I had no doubt that I had absolutely no intention of leaving. It's just that um, because of family life. Since my husband and I, we both were working, and our both of our jobs were requiring us to go to different countries and different conflict zones,
Right,
and having a family and having two kids in that situation was very difficult with civil war,
right.
and so
Yeah,
my
right,
choice was. I was wondering if. I mean, I didn't even know about my two passions at that point kind of
right.
yeah, so at that point I had this question mark that, oh, you know what, maybe, I mean, I'm really dedicating all I have to, of course I would love to improve the world, but was like, what about my personal life? It's kind of I'm kind of sacrificing my, in a way, not really sacrificing, but it was like conflict, civil conflict, and we're living apart with two little kids, and I barely because at that time I was in Bangkok, Thailand, and the traffic is so bad that I have to leave for the office before kids wake up, this kind of thing, and
Right.
it's like there was a little bit of a question conflict in my mind that wait, I'm what about my personal life? Even though, yeah, I'm happy to do whatever to improve everything in the world, but I felt like I feel like I may
What
be
about me?
neglecting myself. So that's kind of, yeah,
Exactly.
the reason. Mm.
And I love that. And I think that a lot of women face that same conflict. We are the wife, we are the caregiver, we are the woman that's wanting her career. And sometimes you think, okay, something has to give. And what is that one thing that's going to give? So good for you for making the decision. So you retire from the UN, not an easy task because they have a process that you have to go through, but it was a supportive resignation, as you had
Oh,
mentioned to me
yeah.
earlier.
I mean,
Yeah. And
my
so,
colleagues are, my former colleagues are some of my clients now. So,
okay. That's awesome. I love that. Okay, so let's get into your passions. So I know, based because you're in the mastermind group with me, I know that you've got two amazing passions. Some crazy way you've merged them. So one is for sake and one is for face yoga, and you have successfully combined the two. So let's talk a little bit about how you got into your first passion, which was the sake, correct?
yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
so tell a
oh
little bit
yeah,
about that.
thank
Yeah.
you, Lynette. And you put it so eloquently because I have in my mind this balancing these two passions has been my struggle in a way. But I felt like I finally came to a point in recent months that I can have it all. Meaning that I always felt like I had to choose one, and that's what people gurus tell you. Like online gurus will tell you that focus on one and go for it. But it was impossible to do that for me. But anyway, so going
Okay. Yeah,
back to
great.
why sake is that because I just did this such a fun sake workshop literally 12 hours ago tasting nine
Right.
sakes with amazing people. And the reason why I'm doing this is, well, first of all, I never loved sake because sake was like my grandfather's drink, and the sake he was drinking was pretty awful at that
Yeah.
time. Yes, I love
40
my
years ago.
grandfather. Yeah, yeah, I love my grandfather, but yes, whenever he offers or someone offers sake, is like that bad stuff. No, 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 no way, no, thank you.
Yeah.
I prefer champagne or cava or Spanish wine or whatever. But anyway, one day, right after I resigned from the UN, we went on a family trip. It's almost like incredible. It was almost meant to happen in hindsight. Of course, I had no idea for 14 years that this was meant to be. But at that time in Fukushima, now it's known for its natural nuclear disaster. There, I we stayed in a hotel where they gave us a sample of their local sake and they said, please enjoy it. It's on the house. And I was like, ooh, sake, no thank you. But I thought, okay, but she's so kind and polite. Okay, let me have a sip. And so I had a sip, like in a small cup like this, and it completely changed my life because I was blown away. What is this? This is sake? It's like angels singing and joy. Delicious, such a delicious. And I mean, I love food and I love to eat and drink. So already
Yeah.
I loved it. But when I tasted that sip, it was, I did not understand what was even going on. It was so delicious. And I realized, what? Sake is so good, and I've been missing out all my life for decades.
Because of your grandfather's
Yeah,
home brew.
exactly. So, but it was
Oh my God.
so that's how I got introduced. But then the reason why it is my passion and my now life work, I would say, is because as I drank that sake, I was looking for more sake when I came back to Tokyo. And little by little, and then of course, I forgot to mention even that my grandfather who was drinking the bad sake, is actually from Nagano, which is one of the main production sites of sake in Japan. So
Right.
even though, of course, yeah, he should have drank better ones, but at that time, I guess there wasn't much choice.
Yeah.
But what I've learned, so whenever I went back to my grandfather's ancestral village, I learned that the neighborhood breweries are going bankrupt and people are moving to Tokyo to get an office job, because why would you want to stay in this countryside and brew sake that no one wants to drink anyway? So that was the reason
Right.
why so many breweries apparently were going bankrupt. And I was really astonished to hear that because I had no idea. I was always looking outside, towards the outside world, never internally inside Japan. So this was like
Right.
an awakening that, oh my goodness, that's a national tragedy that such a delicious drink. I mean, our sake is 2,000 years old, and like
Yeah.
if the consumption, and literally I learned at that time that the consumption was going about one third consumption lower than before, which is a huge
Worldwide?
amount. Oh, no, sorry,
Worldwide or just
domestically in
domestic?
Japan.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that's
Okay.
when I realized, oh, I think we need to do something. It's such a delicious, craft, and how is it possible? It doesn't feel like it's justice that, consumption is going down and breweries are closing. So in a way, that's how I started. But it wasn't like, I'm going to make this a business. It was more like a life mission. I want to get involved and share the beauty of sake so that people appreciate sake, drink sake, and buy sake so that the
Exactly.
craft continues. So that was kind of how I started the sake journey in a long way, because that was took a long time to do that.
So you have this like, oh, I'm not a sake fan. You go to this hotel and they offer you the sake and you're like, oh God, I don't want to I don't want to drink that gasoline, which is what you thought because of the only time you had sake before was when you were younger. And then you were like, oh wow, holy cow. And so when you knew that and you found out that these sake production facilities were going bankrupt, you wanted to do something about it, but you still didn't know anything about sake other than that you actually
Absolutely nothing,
now
nothing.
now you like the taste of it, but you have no idea what you're even talking about if you were going to try to champion these sake facilities and really kind of keep sake alive in Japan. So you obviously have to upskill. So you went through a process of like, how did you even know where to even turn to learn more about sake?
Yeah, actually, really, I had no idea at that time. And even when I learned that it's a national tragedy, but then what can I do? Because, I just know that I love to drink good sake, but
Drink
that's
it.
not good enough. So, and just by chance, because we have so many local breweries around us, I started visiting the breweries, and our kids are like, not another brewery.
Oh
Can
my
we
God.
have different family vacations?
No, we're off to the next brewery, kids.
Look, sake ice cream.
Um, exactly.
Bribery.
Oh my God, that's fun. Yeah, exactly. Look,
So
sake
yeah,
ice
so
cream.
informally I was kind of trying to learn, but then I discovered that there are actually formal, sommelier certifications, which I had, of course, absolutely no
Wow.
clue because I
Neither
was in
did
a
I.
bureaucracy, kind of in a bubble bureaucracy where the outside world, it's like a
Yeah.
strange tower.
Yeah.
So this was all new to me. Wow, certificate. Okay, I thought, okay, let me try. And I took the initial kind of like a sommelier one, and it was pretty fun to study for it. So I thought, wait, there's like a high one. Okay, I am going for that. And I studied more than for the United Nations recruitment exam.
So you studied, okay. Okay, so you're like, okay, I'm going to change the sake brewery world in Japan. I need to get educated. I'm going to go find this certification, found the certification, and realized, holy cow, there's actually a master sommelier, sake sommelier certification. I'm going for it. And as you just said, I studied harder for that than I did for my UN position. Well done, Sarika. Well done. You know it's a true passion when. Okay, so now you've got your master's certification. That took you how long? How long of a process did that take you?
Well, let's say I got that in 2019. And even at that time, I wasn't thinking of making this a business. It was more like I,
Correct.
I want to do something and I want to learn. It was because the more
It
you
was more
learn,
for the cause than it
yeah,
was for
exactly.
business, right? Yeah,
Yeah, and
exactly.
because
Purpose.
I only started the business when I met you during the pandemic.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly. So yeah, it took a while. I mean, it didn't cross my mind when I took the exam. It was more not for business or not for entrepreneurship, but rather like, okay, I want to know more. And the more you know, the more it's like I can be super geeky about sake
Yeah.
because I just love learning about it. And then it tastes even better when you know all these, stories. So yeah, no, it was fun.
And I love that story. I think when I think about your story, so many women our age, and even women in general, and men and everybody, they all thinking like, what is my purpose? And then, mirroring that with what you're passionate about. That is your story of even just the Saki journey has definitely uh, combine that passion, purpose, and now you're sharing it with the world. It's a real hero's journey, to be honest. It's not like, where you had to like slay dragons or anything like that, but as in the hero's journey where there's always some sort of trials or tribulations, but even just starting a business is very difficult. But the one thing I want everybody to know about your story is that you first took something that you were passionate about and said, I'm going to learn more about it. And now that I'm learning more about it, I see how I can change the world with it, or at least change Japan with it, which then became your purpose. And then you got your master's. And one thing that people need to understand is that sometimes you may not always have all the skills, so you have to do a little bit of upskilling.
Oh
But that's part
yeah,
of the
I started from
yeah,
zero. I mean, it's not like I was born into a sake brewery family or anything. So yeah, it was like
exactly.
level zero was my
Level zero
start.
understanding, exactly. And so And so when you're doing that, you think, well, that's all part of the fun and part of the journey too. And sometimes, it just reminds me of how sometimes we can often think about just the destination. Okay, I just have to get this certification. I have to get this certification. But you had some fun doing those
Yeah, because you're
certifications. And
drinking sake while you're learning. How can that not be fun?
I love it. I love it. And learning more and more all the time about it. Okay. So you're dabbling in sake. You're really, it's still a passion project that's, going to deliver some purpose with educating others and sort of creating this cause. How did you get into your second passion, which is face yoga?
Again,
Which is,
it's by coincidence.
yeah, right.
I mean, both of them are total coincidence because I had again, it's like from level zero. I had nothing to do with it. It was just by chance. Even like it's almost like a joke. Even people now, when I say because I have three brands under my company, Sarika International Limited, which I
Yep.
forgot to mention because I
Okay.
was so excited talking to you. Completely
Oh
forgot
my
to
God, this
mention
is so
about
fun.
myself in my introduction.
We will. We'll get to that. We'll get to that for sure. I'm not gonna let this interview end until you tell us exactly who Sarika is. So,
Yeah,
okay, so
so face yoga.
coincidence,
Yeah,
right?
coincidence. So it was just like a girls' trip and just casually, taking like snap photos. This is already 2014, so some time ago. And just we were smiling and then we looked at the photos like, ooh, look, everybody is exercising and their body is so toned. I mean, not me. I never go to the gym. I should, but but everyone else was saying,
Oh my God, this
but
is
my
this is
friends.
one of my most fun interviews, by the way. I love you. I love you.
Oh, I love talking to you. I love being with you, Lynette. That's why I'm there always on Tuesdays for 3 years. Anyway,
Okay,
back
so you're
to
all looking at each other. You're
yeah, and
exercising,
we're like,
except you. You're in the corner drinking sake.
yeah. At that time, it was still wine, but but
Okay.
yeah. And well, someone just casually, jokingly mentioned like, why is it that I go to the gym and my not me, my friend, my body is so toned, but look at my face, it's like going gravity is working, like going down, and we just casually said, oh, you can maybe go to the gym or maybe there's some face exercise, and we Googled it. And at that time, now face yoga is more mainstream, but at that time, face yoga was like it popped up on a search or something, and
Yeah.
people were laughing. But when I heard it, somehow it clicked in my. It made a connection in my mind that I am so curious. What is that? And I discovered it was a Japanese method, and at that time, so and then I
Perfect.
had the chance to go back to Japan, and I searched immediately like where is that teacher that I saw before? And just by complete coincidence, when I was going back to Japan, they were going to do a teacher 1 week teacher training, and
On
and I thought
a teacher training on face yoga
face yoga.
in
And
Japan. In Japan.
yes, yeah. So
Okay.
I thought, well, you know what? I just needed to attend to understand what it is. Like I just all I wanted was really like an intro 1 hour course. But if the 1 week teacher training is the one that's offered where when I'm going there, I felt like I want to try this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Somehow it was somewhere in my mind. I was so fascinated because it kind of made sense, right? Because people exercise their body muscle, so why not their face muscle? And yeah, so I went and I did this teacher training, and actually I loved it so much. I mean, again, I was not doing a teacher training to teach others, of course. It was just by coincidence that the only thing offered was a teacher training.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So yeah.
But you did it because you were curious about it. It was a Japanese sort of cultural thing, and as you explained to me, it's a bit of a replacement for Botox and other types of things, or
Yeah.
at least it buys you some time before you have to dive into the Botox. I mean, the
Oh yeah,
Botox
you
is to
never
tweak
have
your
to. You
or
don't
the
have to. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
Because well, originally I did this face. I was interested in face yoga because of more the superficial reasons. Because they say it's like take 10 years off with face yoga. That's like how they sell it in Japan. So I was curious. So that's initially was my reason. And of course, just like you would exercise the body muscle and pump blood and oxygen flow on your body and you feel good, exactly the same logic for the face. You have all this flow and you feel so much better. But what I've noticed after starting face yoga, after the training, is that it, what got me hooked was actually not the wrinkle bit, like the when what they're talking
The
about, but
superficials, yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, what I understood or what I realized is that I was holding so much stress on my face, and I actually let go of so much stress on my face because now I realize going back to my UN times because I was still quite young and a lot of people kind of underestimated me and you know uh, like so in the meetings I would try to put make a really serious face so that because people were commenting that I look always so happy, and it's like, wait, but in a sarcastic kind of, not in a strange way, and I felt like,
Yeah,
wait, maybe I'm not supposed to look happy after all during meetings,
yeah, yeah.
especially on serious topics. So
Oh
I
my
started
gosh.
like trying to make,
Frowning and oh my
frowning and
gosh.
like making very serious faces too, so that I
Yeah,
thought, I would look professional. But what that did, of course, is that it created like the frown lines
yeah, yeah.
for 10 years.
Oh
So,
my
but I
gosh.
didn't realize that. I mean, I had no awareness of how I was holding my facial expression until I did face yoga. And what I realized is that, oh, wow, I think I never realized that I was, because I was trying to look so mature and professional. And now that I'm mature, I have no idea why I was doing that.
Yeah,
why I wanted to look mature. But
yeah.
but
I mean, I
yes,
think too, it's like conformity, right? I mean, when you even think about working in, like even my job, sometimes you feel a little like, during the day when I'm working with my consulting clients, I feel a little like I need to conform. And so, right. So exactly. That's really, yeah, it's such a truth. And I love the underlying tone because I think actually Botox, that is the ultimate thing, is to release the tension that you're holding because your muscles are,
hmm,
like because you've been frowning all the time.
yeah.
But I do think, I have taken, well, I took your course early out of the gate almost 2 years ago.
Oh, yeah,
And I mean, some of those
thank you.
crazy moves, but they're kind of fun too. Like,
They
so
are.
they are like I'll be like at the gym sometimes and as I'm doing some kind of exercise for my body, I'll start to like move my mouth like oh I and then I touch my nose to the tongue and I'm sure people are like, but I think it helps you with a mind body release too. Like, because I don't know, that's just my own thing, but it,
Absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely. Because there's even, people say that we actually hold 90% of our stress from the shoulders up, because you
I
don't see
believe it.
crinkled, let's say toes. Okay, maybe you
No.
can, but it's more, it shows on your face a lot. What you basically are thinking, even trauma, you can be holding on your face. So
For
yeah,
sure.
there's a lot of release you can do, and it's just that even though I initially went to face yoga because of the superficial reasons, I just love doing it because internally it feels so fun and good. So yeah, so that's
Yeah.
how I start. And in fact, that wasn't even how I started, because then when I came back from the teacher training, my friends were telling me, "So you went to this crazy teacher training? What is it?" So I showed them, and they started, so we just did like a fun little session, of course not intending to make this a business, just to show them. And they were regularly doing the homework that I gave them, and some of them were asked, because we were in Vietnam at the time, some of them were asked, "Did you go to Bangkok and do some surgery? Because you look different."
Wow.
And that was for the participants, they were asked. And she was like, "No, I just did face yoga." And then
These
that's
crazy face moves Sarika told me about.
yeah, and that's how, like, people kept coming to me, like, through these people who had actually, I think they transformed even more than myself. I think they were more they were like really ambassadors for me, and for really lovely people. And yeah, that's how it started. And I realized, wait, I didn't know I could help so many people with doing crazy faces together, and this is, wow, what a joy.
Exactly. So,
Yeah.
so tell us about your face yoga program. I know you just did recently. You just did a challenge that
Mm,
was a free challenge for a few couple of days, and then it opened up the doors to taking that experience a little bit further. So, tell us a little
yeah.
bit about that, about your program.
Yeah, so I just opened, or I just set up, because this is all my first time to do such a live launch, which I was kind of hesitating to do. But I just decided to do it. So I put out the announcement first, and then I prepared. So I can't go, I can't procrastinate anymore because I knew that if I was going to get ready first, it would probably be 2024. So, but anyway, so yes, I did the founding members pre-sale for what I call the Face Liberation Salon. So to liberate your face from stress. Yeah, so I just actually came from a one of my face liberation salon calls, which was one of my United Nations time colleague just
Yeah.
before this. So yeah, so yeah, it's a program that will take you from a very stressed face to a brighter face and spirit. And then I have like three different pathways. So it's a pre-sale now, but I'm going to do a proper like a launch from November 20th. So I'm preparing right now.
Okay, well, so I'll make sure that in the show notes, the link to that actual launch is there. But
Thank
you said
you.
something, I kind of want to dive a little bit into the mindset and the psychological games we
Mm.
play with ourselves
Oh
when
yes.
we're trying to put what we love and what we are passionate about, and then where we think that there's a purpose, and that purpose being helping other women do the same thing. So you said, I had to sell it and I wasn't even ready. And a lot of times that's what we're taught as online marketers is to, have your founders launch, right? Find those,
Hmm.
five, three, four, five, 10 people max, I would
Hmm.
say, to help you with a bit of a pilot.
Hmm.
But you got to get it out into the world. So what do you think stops us? You've
Oh,
got your
everything
teacher.
stops us.
Listen, you've got your teacher training. Okay, you have your teacher training. You've seen people actually yourself. You've
Mhm.
solved the problem for yourself. You've shared it with some of your friends who also gave you validation. You should be feeling pretty damn confident by now, but yet we still hesitate. And I face those same challenges, those same mindset
Mhm.
challenges myself. Like for the past 3 years, I've been leading a group that is trying to launch a side business, and I still think, oh my God, nobody's gonna want to join my next cohort. Like it's just so dumb, but it's a fact of life. And so what did you do? What did you say to yourself? I'm always curious. What did you do? What did you say to yourself to, I know you forced yourself, you said, by, okay,
Mhm.
I put it out to the world, it wasn't ready, so now I actually have to get it ready.
Yeah.
But you did put it out into the world. What did you say to yourself to get it out to the world?
Well, because of this multi-passionate, because of my two not conflicting at this point now, I know they all work together under an umbrella, which is me. In
Yeah,
fact, I have a third brand, which is the Sake Bomb, which brings
right.
face yoga and sake together in a way. So
And yeah,
because I was concentrating so much on sake because there was much demand, which I never knew that people were so interested to learn about sake, which is great because yeah, I get to drink sake and I get to share the sake, and yeah, so people I've been so focused on that, and then about half a year for about half a year, I felt like I was really neglecting something, which is face yoga, and I felt like, you know what? I don't, even though I'm really like sake was becoming very, very successful, like, like in terms of how, where I want to be going, it was like completely exceeded my expectations. So I was very happy in terms of sake, but I definitely felt like I'm missing something. And that was the face yoga. And so I thought, okay, I, I remember those like comments and happy moments where people were giving me feedback that, oh, they feel so much more relaxed, and people are telling them how great they look, and I remembered that all of a sudden. It's like, wait, I want to do that again, and that's also joyful, and I can drink sake and do both at the same time. So, and that's where I thought, okay, I really, really want to get back. And unless I put it out, I'm just not gonna, because I put it in the back burner for 2 years. So yeah, I thought, and there's definitely always people asking me about face yoga. So, but then I always said, oh, right now, because I'm focusing on sake, it's not the best time, but I will be in touch. It was always kind of strange things like this. And I was like, what, why am I doing that for? People want to learn. So yeah,
Yeah.
let's do it. And then, yeah, so I just thought, okay. And I had this idea that I will do face yoga from September. But then, luckily, the sake competition in Japan invited me as a judge. So that plan got a little bit postponed. And I thought, you
Yeah.
know what? When I came just right after Japan, I thought I am going to postpone this again. So I thought, okay, I'm going to just put it out because I'll
Yeah.
have so many reasons, and see if no one is interested. That's all right too. But then in 1 week, 50 people were interested, so I was super
Yeah.
happy. And yeah, yeah. I don't know if I answered your question because now I went everywhere. I can't remember what your question was. Oh dear.
No, 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 no. It's perfect. You did
I should
answer the
write it down.
question. No, no, you did answer the question. The question was like, how did you find it in yourself to finally say, I'm going to just put this out to the world? And from what I can hear, what I heard from you, it was you were struggling with your two passions. You loved them both, but you knew that this sake was taking you to a place of like some really great things, really good growth opportunities, right? You've been now asked to be a judge on several occasions for sake competitions and stuff. But yet there was this thing that's always sort of in the back of your mind going, but what about face yoga? And still people were tapping you on, like there was this need. People were asking. You had already put it out in the world. People were asking. So you were kind of getting validation that that was going to be the right thing. So then you're like, okay, if I don't do it now, which I think this is where a lot of women will hit roadblocks, is just finding that time, finding the right moment, the right time. And there's never going to be a right time. And
Oh
that's
no,
essentially what
never.
exactly, because you knew, oh no, if I don't do it now, I know I'm going to be invited to this next event to judge a sake event 2 months from now or a month from now. I'll never get
Yeah.
this thing out, and I want to get it out. It's like so. It came how I can paraphrase how I'm paraphrasing. Tell me if I'm wrong. Is it
Mhm.
came from your heart, and it came from sort of your logical mind that if I don't get this out, I'll never get it out. And how will I feel
Exactly,
when
because I
if I
didn't like
don't?
that feeling that I didn't feel complete. It's hard to explain this feeling
Yeah,
because like I should be happy, pretty happy where I am with sake, but there was something. It's like, yeah, it's great, but I know that I love face yoga, and I know my sake bomb that I'm like the biggest fan.
so let's talk about the sake bomb, because I feel like, quite honestly, since I've known you, Sarika, for the past 3 years, you have been in a bit of an incubator. And so when I say an incubator,
Mm.
it's like a place where visionaries go and test their ideas,
Yeah.
and like sort of a scientific scientist, kind of going in there and figuring out how it all works. I think what I admire most is that you just kept on the path. You just kept on the path. And as most people will tell you, the more you continue down a path, the more things start to show up. And I think this is exactly what's happened to you. So you're incubating your sake purpose. How are you going to change the world there? You've realized that this face yoga, you're loving that. So you're doing that. And then you're thinking, okay, well, what everybody tells you, only focus on one thing, as you had mentioned earlier in the podcast. But you're like, no, I still need to, I want to do them both. And then boom, I've got this idea for a sake bomb.
Yeah.
Okay, so and it's called, is it still is I know you just launched it. Is it still called the Sarika bomb?
It's called the Sarika Sake Bomb. It's launching
Bomb.
actually in
Okay.
November because right now
Okay.
it's on pre-sale because it's within the EU it's a long process to get, so it's already approved like in terms of ingredients and everything. I was really worried that
Okay.
sake will be rejected, but all is well. There's even a
Okay.
proper name for it and everything. So yeah, so it was completely just in a couple months ago in August. This idea, a product idea, as if two services are not enough, it came to my mind. And I was
Yeah.
inspired by other entrepreneurs. I was in a entrepreneurs meeting in London, and people had incredibly fabulous products that actually solve a problem. And I was like, wow, products. I never ever thought of doing a product because, I have two things and I'm already juggling. And then when I heard about what they were doing, it's like, wait, I have a perfect product that I love, which I never thought of commercializing, which is my DIY cosmetics, and sake bomb is my absolute favorite because I've been making it since 2014, since my yoga times.
And only you were only using it for yourself.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Correct. Yeah, yeah.
Correct.
So you've been
Yeah.
making your own, right? Okay. So
Mm-hmm.
this Sarika Sake bomb that's
Mm-hmm.
going to be officially for sale in November, but is on
Mm-hmm.
pre-sale. You're saying that it's kind of combining the love of sake because it's the main ingredient I'm assuming is
Yes.
sake
Mm-hmm.
and face yoga. Tell us, how does that merge together?
Yeah, for me, it's like, oh, I feel like everything is finally coming together. And I've done some sample little launch in Madrid to a select group of English speaking women, and everyone has so many great things to say about it. So I'm super happy. But anyway, so yeah, so I feel like, because when you say sake, a lot of people associate it with alcohol. Naturally, of course, that's the natural thing. But to share the love of sake, I thought, it's not just for drinking. Alcohol, sake is such a craft, and it's actually super super versatile because you can actually use it for cooking. And sake, for as a self-care or beauty product, it has been used for centuries because it's super
Okay.
softening, moisturizing. It has all that enzyme, the fermentation magic, so it softens and moisturizes, does all this wonderful things. So that's when I started kind of experimenting. And of course, grandmother, people have been using it. It's not like my invention that you use sake. It's,
Yeah.
geisha has been bathing in sake and all these stories. So yeah. And I thought, well, this is another way to share the beauty of sake, not just as an alcohol drink, which is great, but also, even if you don't drink alcohol, there are so many benefits from sake. So yeah, I thought it was a new gateway to share the love of sake. So I felt like it combines. And while you're doing face yoga, it's always good to have your face moisturized. So it all kind of
Yeah.
combines.
Because your fingers will smoothly go like,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
exactly, exactly. Well, I know I've got to figure out how to get it over to where I am. I know you are
Oh no,
currently
there's
living in
worldwide
Spain.
shipping.
Worldwide shipping. Okay, well, I'm going to leave all of your contact information in the show notes. But before we leave, before we wrap up, I want to just ask you a couple more questions.
Yeah.
And because this podcast really is, I mean, you've been an absolute joy. That was probably one of the funnest podcasts I've done. Thank you for that.
Thank
But
you.
I want to ask you a couple more questions just
Hmm.
around, like, did you ever once have imposter syndrome on your
All the
journey?
time. I mean, I
Because you
didn't
don't sound like it. And now I know you have, but I
even.
mean, yeah, like, tell us
Absolutely.
about it. Tell us, tell
Mhm.
us, tell us a little bit about that. And like, how do you keep going? Because imposter syndrome leads to procrastination in my mind. That's the
Absolutely.
sort of the next thing.
Hmm.
So yeah, tell us a little bit about.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I didn't even know the word imposter syndrome until like maybe 2 years ago. So definitely, I mean, when I started, because I opened my first company during the pandemic, and that was basically focusing on sake. And yeah, so I had my first client, which is the Polish Vodka Museum, and that uh, it was all right. But then when I got a request, when everything was closed and when there were no other choices, right? Because in the pandemic, everything you can't do person to person, and when because I was sharing what I was doing on Instagram at that time. I opened an Instagram account during the pandemic, and I was just sharing my sake tasting notes, and people started contacting me saying that they want to learn. And one was one of my friends from my UN times again, who
Yeah,
saw
yeah.
who saw this, and she said, "Would you like to do a session for the MIT Japan program?" I was what? First, I did not know the word imposter syndrome, but I just felt like I'm not good enough. I can't. I don't think I could. So I kind of politely kind of hinted that
Decline.
I'm not sure. I mean,
Yeah.
because pandemic, and I've only done face to face workshops, tastings, and now we know that everything works well on Zoom, including tasting. But at that time, I had no clue that I could do a tasting remotely with such a group of people who are going to be super knowledgeable about everything. So yeah, I didn't even know the word imposter syndrome, but that's exactly what I had, and I was but at the end, somehow, yeah, she said I think it will work, and they have been doing remote classes before, so yeah, so that was definitely a moment that I can instantly recall when you say the word imposter syndrome.
Okay, so all right, so that's interesting. So you've got this imposter syndrome. Your friend is sort of nudging you. No, it's going to be okay. She kind of helps you figure out a little bit about the logistics of it, and then you're like, okay, well, okay, clearly she's not getting my no. So now I'm stuck doing this, and so you did it. And I know this story, so I want to finish this
Mhm.
story. So you did the workshop, and then you were like, oh, I think you asked for some feedback, correct?
Well, actually, after delivering the workshop, I felt like, oh, I did not do well enough. And I felt like, oh my goodness, I really want to apologize to my friend who trusted me with this. And I felt like okay, I have to write this sincere email apologizing that, oh, it didn't go as, I did not perform as I wanted. But then she wrote back with like phenomenal feedback, and I was like, oh,
Yeah.
what? So yeah, it's all in our mind that we always like are judging, are so critical about ourselves, right? And that was like an
We are
example.
exactly. I think you hit that right on the head where we just don't have the confidence in like we can kind of come across a bit perfectionist. You're throwing it out there, it's the first time, but I even know you even tried to shortchange yourself on what you charge for the program as well, which is another thing that I think a lot of entrepreneurs get into this
Yeah.
mindset. I'd rather just give it away for free. If I give it away for free, then at least people will see the value of my content. But oh God, how can I ever charge for it? I hate sales. I'm terrible at sales. But so tell the story there because that's also you. So then she's like, okay, well, send me your invoice. And you did.
Yeah, and because I had no idea, right? I was just starting everything from scratch, and remote thing, first time ever. So I thought, I guess this is a kind of okay enough price for me in my mind at that time. So that's the invoice I sent, and yeah. Basically, she said, no, it was fabulous.
But I do know you did tell me you really lowballed the number
Oh,
because
yeah.
we don't know what to charge. And that is the number, another, not number one, but that's like probably number two after you've come up with the idea. And then, what am I going to charge for it? And the first thing we do is, like I had mentioned, give it away for free, or you might as well give it away for free. And I think, I mean, there was somebody the other day that I think it was in my mastermind group. She was
Mhm.
talking about upping her price on her program. And so we said, well, how much is it? And I think it was like $1,000 a year. Every month they did a mastermind session, every week, and then she did these one-on-one coaching. So we did the numbers, and it turned
Mhm.
out that I think she was making $4 an hour or something like that by the
Oh.
time she was done. So I
Mm.
think the one thing we have to remember is people see the value. And I mean, even on Instagram yesterday, I saw this one guy's post. He's a social media marketer. He actually recorded a conversation with one of his potential clients. And I thought, oh, okay, 7 reels a month, blah, blah, blah. And how much is he going to charge? And he threw out this number. First thing that went to my head is, oh my God, he could be charging way more than that. But
Mm.
he's not charging that. So
Mm.
anyway, that's a really good. So imposter syndrome, it's, I don't even think a lot of people even understand what that is. And as you had mentioned, yeah, I didn't even know what it was, but that is it. It's the, when you're going to share your talents and passions and purpose with the world, and you get stopped in your tracks by some crazy thought in your mind, that's imposter syndrome. And somehow you have to push
Yeah,
through it.
absolutely. Mm.
Sarika, one more question for you.
Mm.
What would be the three things that you would tell a woman in her 50s or entering into her 50s
Mhm.
about entering into entrepreneurship and trying to find that? Let me back up. What would
Mhm.
be the question or the three things that you would
Mhm.
tell a woman who's came to you and said, I'm thinking about doing something like what you just did, find
Mhm.
a passion and a purpose and turning it into business. What would you tell me? What would the three things that you would focus on?
Ah, that's super interesting because I've had similar questions in recent times from like
Excellent.
long lost friends. And I mean, it's not really three things, but my first thing is like, I think it's the perfect time because we've got all the experience. And I mean, I think finally it feels like I did something completely different before, but now I realize everything has been so useful from my UN career up to now. Like, even for face yoga and sake. So if you're starting like right now, it's perfect. You've got the whole, 50, half a century of life experience already. So you can use like it's going to be like a whole summary that you can all put together. So it's the perfect time, I think, to start at this age is the perfect time because yeah. Mm.
And I agree. I think that arsenal of knowledge and experience. I remember on one of our mastermind calls, somebody said, well, I know who it was, but I'm not going to say, but
Mm.
she said, well, I don't know. I would think I don't have any skills. So how can I start a business in my 50s? And I think that's really a valid comment. And so I think it's less about what are my skills and how can I bring them forward into something new, and it's like what do I like, what am I like, and even like what do I love to do, what am I interested in, because the one thing I've realized, and
Mhm.
I would probably tell this woman, is all you need is that 10% edge. And we've talked about
Mhm.
that in our mastermind group, where we don't need to know 1000% more than you. I just need to know
Absolutely.
more, 10% more than you, and I will help you come along the way.
Absolutely. I think it's also more relatable because if you're
Yeah,
1,000
exactly.
steps away, it's kind of a far role model. Yeah. And there was
Yeah,
one thing I was going to say is that I don't think you have to, because the thing is, I think we're always evolving. And I think all of us in our mastermind, we've evolved, right? Like the format,
absolutely.
the business, even the content is always evolving. So it's not like you have to think hard and decide and do. It's like you do and then you evolve with it.
Yeah,
So yeah, I don't think
exactly.
yeah, yeah. So I don't think you should let like you don't have to like what am I going to pick? It's not like that. And you can pick something first and then evolves. And that's exactly kind of, in a way, I feel like I'm always evolving. So I had no idea I would start my sake bomb a product, because product was never in my mind even 3 months ago. So this is all new. And yeah, less than 3 months ago, actually. So you never know what will happen. I mean, but I think it's completely natural to evolve. So it's not like you need to overthink and choose one thing, your passion. It's the start, I guess, like just go and do it, and then you can always evolve and make it better. So yeah, like
Exactly.
no need to be
Exactly.
scared and overthink to start. And
And that's
you've got everything.
definitely been exactly, and that's been a real theme in some of the conversations I've had of late, where just, think big, like just like how you said, in your sake days, your early sake days, you were like, oh, I love sake, but what do you mean all of these breweries are going bankrupt? I got to do something about it. So that was the thinking big. And then you like, okay, well, hold on a second. I got to start small because I don't even know how I'm going to change the sake brewery world until I do a few other things. And you went down the path of certification, educating yourself. So Sarika, where can people get a hold of you? I'm going to put it all in the show notes, but just what would be the one spot you would tell people to go and find out more about your sake, your face yoga, and your balm?
Oh, thank you, Lynette. Well, now everything is under one roof, which is a new
Excellent.
evolution. Because I used to have everything scattered, and now everything is under thesarika.com.
thesarika.com. Okay, well, that is way too easy. I love it. No one's going to forget that. Okay, so I'm going to put that in the show notes, and we'll obviously be sharing some clips of the reel of this podcast on Instagram and a few other social platforms. So, listen, you have been a real joy. I love you. I feel like we're sisters, just from different mothers, kind of thing. We've been on a journey together for 3 years, and I hope that we have
Oh,
many more years ahead of us. It was a lot of fun,
absolutely.
a lot of fun. I
Oh,
laughed a lot, so
Lynette,
thank you for
Lynette,
that.
thank you so much, Lynette. Really, it's been so fun. And you know what? I completely forgot to say about the last the one thing about like in terms. Okay, maybe one thing that I told my Japanese friends who asked me that they want to start uh, what they're thinking about in their 50s. And the one thing that I forgot to say was, yes, I feel like we're in the luckiest time, right? It's like we have um, gender issues are less compared to grandma's time. So I think, yeah, we really need to be kind of realizing how grateful like we are to be now, because it's possible to do all this, whereas our grandmothers it was not possible. So yeah,
It
that's
wasn't.
completely kind of forgot to say that, but yeah, but anyway, no.
Okay, no, that's good. And I think you're right. Like I think society is open to women in their 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s
Yeah.
starting businesses. I mean, we have a 72-year-old woman, Kathleen, in our in our mastermind group, and it's admiring to see her still going for it. She's been an entrepreneur for years.
Absolutely.
And just, I know we're trying to wrap up, but on that point, from the days of our grandmothers and such, where it wasn't socially acceptable to be an entrepreneur, let alone even working, let alone, working, let alone be an entrepreneur. One thing I found out just recently when I was talking with my mom is she got fired from a job because she was pregnant. And that they told
Hmm.
her like she was, she had just got this job. It was working in insurance. She had, these promises of travel. It was sales. She was pregnant with my sister. So this would be 50 years ago. Um,
Hmm.
and, you know, she was so sick, like morning sickness and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
she wasn't going to work, and she was going to work, but then she'd get sick and then she'd leave. And they fired her for that. And I thought, whoa,
Hmm.
that would not happen in this day and age. And but the thing,
Exactly.
right, and the most important part of that story was, how did that make you feel? Like it
Mm,
just might have just poofed any kind of dreams of being more than just a housewife. And I asked her,
yeah.
what did you end up doing? She's like, well,
Mm.
I just became a housewife. And that was just a
Mm.
sad, sad story. So I found that like a
Yeah.
disappointing story. So
Yeah, absolutely. I think.
Sarika, thank you.
Oh, Lynette, thank you. It was so
I
fun to
will,
talk to you and spend
yeah, I
time like
will.
this.
I'll see you next Tuesday,
Yes.
hopefully. And in the meantime, take care and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Lynette.
My
So
pleasure. Thanks
much.
for joining.
Bye bye. And that's